You felt it your entire life. That nagging sense that you're watching the world through glass. Everyone else seems to move with such certainty, laughing at jokes that feel hollow, getting excited about things that leave you empty. You try to join in, to feel what they feel, but it's like trying to force yourself to enjoy a song played off-key. The disconnect isn't just social, it's existential. You begin to wonder if there's something fundamentally wrong with you. But what if the problem isn't you at all? What if you're simply cursed with something our society fears more than ignorance itself? Genuine depth. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus once observed that no man is free who is not master of himself. But what happens when mastering yourself means becoming a stranger to everyone else? When thinking deeply becomes a form of social suicide? Today, we'll explore why our modern world punishes profound thought and rewards shallow conformity, and why your sense of alienation might be the price of intellectual honesty. The early warning signs. It begins in childhood, doesn't it? While other kids are content with simple answers, you're the one asking, but why? Until the adults get frustrated. You're the child who notices that the emperor has no clothes, but quickly learns that pointing this out makes everyone uncomfortable. Your teachers call you precocious or difficult. Your parents worry you're too serious, too sensitive, too much. You start to understand that curiosity is only welcomed when it stays within acceptable boundaries. As you grow, the pattern solidifies. You sit in classrooms where shallow thinking is rewarded with good grades, while genuine inquiry is dismissed as overthinking. You learn to hide your real thoughts behind a mask of normalcy. You discover that intelligence isn't actually valued. Performance is. The ability to regurgitate information matters more than the capacity to question it. And slowly, you begin to retreat inward, creating a rich inner world that nobody else can access or understand. This isn't just teenage angst. This is the beginning of what I call intellectual exile. The gradual realization that your way of processing reality is fundamentally at odds with how society operates. You're not antisocial, you're operating on a different frequency entirely. The conformity trap. Here's what most people don't understand about human nature. We're not actually designed for independent thought. We're tribal creatures, wired for survival in groups of 150 or fewer people. Our brains evolved to prioritize social harmony over individual insight. The person who rocks the boat, even with brilliant ideas, threatens group cohesion, and threatened groups exile the threat. This is why every workplace has the same unspoken rules. Don't ask too many questions in meetings. Don't point out obvious inefficiencies. Don't suggest that maybe we're doing things wrong. The employee who challenges the status quo isn't promoted. They're labeled a troublemaker. The student who questions the curriculum isn't celebrated. They're seen as disruptive. We claim to value innovation, but we punish innovators. Social media has made this worse. Algorithms reward content that confirms existing beliefs and punish nuance. Complexity doesn't get likes. Depth doesn't go viral. The platforms that were supposed to democratize information have instead created echo chambers where shallow thinking is amplified and profound insight is buried. We're drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. The result? A generation of deep thinkers who've learned to hide their gifts, to dumb themselves down, to play the game of superficiality just to survive. We've created a world where intelligence is seen as a liability rather than an asset. The philosopher's burden. The Stoics had a concept called amor fati, love of fate. They believed that wise people don't just accept their circumstances, they embrace them. This included embracing the loneliness that comes with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, literally the most powerful man in the world, wrote in his private journal about feeling isolated by his own thoughts. Even surrounded by thousands of people, he felt fundamentally alone. But here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. This loneliness isn't a bug, it's a feature. When you see the world clearly, you can't unsee it. When you understand how superficial most human interactions are, you can't pretend they're profound. When you recognize the illusions that keep people comfortable, you can't participate in them anymore. The price of wisdom is the loss of comfortable delusions. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events. But what happens when your judgments are more accurate than everyone else's? What happens when you see problems that others ignore, patterns that others miss, truths that others deny? You become a prophet in a world that stones prophets. This is why every great thinker throughout history has been misunderstood in their time. Socrates was executed for asking too many questions. Galileo was imprisoned for challenging accepted beliefs. Darwin was vilified for proposing uncomfortable truths. The pattern is clear. Society claims to value truth, but only the kind of truth that doesn't threaten its comfortable lies. The modern exile, today's deep thinkers, face a unique challenge. Previous generations of philosophers could retreat to universities or monasteries, surrounded by like-minded individuals. But we live in an age of mandatory socialization. We're expected to network, to be team players, to maintain a social media presence. Solitude is seen as antisocial. Silence is interpreted as hostility. The very spaces where deep thinking once flourished have been colonized by shallow social expectations. The irony is that we've never had more access to information, yet we've never been more intellectually isolated. We can connect with millions of people online, but finding someone who thinks deeply feels impossible. We're surrounded by content, but starved for meaning. We have more entertainment options than ever, but we're dying of boredom. This creates a specific type of suffering that previous generations didn't face. The loneliness of being constantly connected but never truly understood. You can have thousands of followers but no real friends. You can be in group chats all day but feel completely alone. The very technologies that were supposed to bring us together have highlighted how far apart we really are. The choice. So what do you do with this knowledge? You have two options. You can continue to hide your depth, to play the game of superficiality, to pretend that small talk satisfies you, and that viral content feeds your soul. Many intelligent people choose this path. It's safer. It's more comfortable. It leads to better career prospects and easier social interactions. Or you can choose the harder path. You can embrace your exile. You can accept that thinking deeply means thinking alone. You can find meaning in solitude instead of seeking validation from the crowd. You can create rather than consume, question rather than accept, think rather than react. The Stoics would tell you that this isn't really a choice at all. If you're truly committed to wisdom, there's only one path. You must be willing to walk alone. You must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to trade the comfort of belonging for the clarity of truth. But here's what they also understood. This path, while lonely, is also liberating. When you stop trying to fit in, you can finally be yourself. When you stop seeking approval from people who don't understand you, you can focus on work that actually matters. When you embrace your intellectual exile, you discover that you're not really alone. You're in the company of every great thinker who ever lived. The hidden gift. Your alienation isn't a curse, it's a calling. Your inability to find satisfaction in shallow pleasures isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Your sense that something is deeply wrong with how we live isn't pessimism, it's perception. You see things that others miss because you're willing to look where others won't. The world needs people who think differently, even if it doesn't want them. Every breakthrough in human history came from someone who refused to accept the conventional wisdom. Every great work of art came from someone who saw beauty where others saw nothing. Every moral advance came from someone who questioned what everyone else accepted. Your job isn't to make other people comfortable. Your job is to think clearly, to see truly, to speak honestly. If that makes you an exile, so be it. The greatest minds in history were exiles too. You're in good company. The burden of depth is real. The loneliness of the thinking person is genuine. But so is the freedom that comes from living according to your own understanding rather than society's expectations. So is the peace that comes from accepting yourself as you are rather than as others want you to be. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not alone. You are simply awake in a world that prefers to sleep. And that, despite everything, is a gift worth cherishing.